We are talking through the books in the wisdom literature of the Hebrew Bible: Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. Today, we're going to dive into the book of Proverbs.
Let the wise listen and add to their learning. Let the discerning get more guidance. This book's for understanding proverbs and parables and riddles of the wise.
This book claims that there's a powerful, mysterious force in the universe called Hokuma. We translate that Hebrew word into wisdom.
Wisdom is described as this universal principle according to which the whole universe is ordered and in which it coheres.
Proverbs begins with 9 chapters of speeches, encouraging us, the reader, to seek Hokuma. And then the rest of the book is the Proverbs themselves.
It's hundreds and hundreds of these sayings that just take every topic in life you could possibly imagine and then running them through the grid of the law of Hokuma that runs the universe.
Learning about Hokuma is not some intellectual exercise with an impersonal force.
Yeah, wisdom is an attribute of God, but it's also something that we're going to see is accessible to humans. You can have wisdom too.
I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did on the Book of Proverbs. Here we go. Okay, the Book of Proverbs. It's one of the 3 books in the wisdom literature.
Yeah, what we're going to frame all of these books as is addressing the question, what kind of world am I living in? And what does it mean to live well in God's world? These books all take for granted that that the God of Israel is the creator and God of the world.
This would be a book that would make it to the New York Times bestseller list in nonfiction. It'd be like How to Make Friends and Influence People kind of book.
But for religious people.
There's
good and evil, right and wrong. So what does it mean to live well and live the good life here?
Yeah.
So what's interesting about the Book of Proverbs is that chapters 1 to 9 begins with all these speeches, not proverbs, but speeches. There's a set of common themes that unite all these speeches. And the first is that wisdom is described as this universal principle according to which the whole universe is ordered and in which it coheres. The most famous example of this is in Proverbs chapter 8, where wisdom is something God uses to actually build and architect the whole universe. So it says in Proverbs 8 that the Lord acquired wisdom as the first of all that he did, and that he formed wisdom and then used wisdom to architect the watery depths and the mountains and the hills, and how he marked out the heavens. It's all this architectural imagery of God making a big building. But wisdom is the blueprint. It's really interesting. So it's as if there's lots of metaphors you could use. Think of a rug. So the weave and pattern of the fabric is woven in order with wisdom. Or there's the universe and existence has a grain like wood, and you can live with the grain or you can go against the grain. There's an order, a cause-effect pattern. So in the Book of Proverbs, there is a set of laws, so to speak, for how life tends to work. And
what's the scripture that talks about it like a blueprint?
That's in Proverbs 8. It starts in verse 22. But it's wisdom speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And saying, the Lord acquired me and then started using me when he was architecting and building the universe.
So wisdom is the blueprint in this metaphor. Mm-hmm. So when God was designing the universe, he would then go and he would look at wisdom and he'd go, oh, okay, that's how I'm going to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, wisdom is an attribute of God, but it's also something that we're going to see is accessible to humans. You can have wisdom too. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you're actually tapping into something outside of yourself that is an attribute of God himself, and that's a principle woven into how the world
It's the same
works.
attribute that gave the blueprints for the world.
Correct. Yeah. There's an important difference, but it's very similar. to the view of the Force in the Star Wars universe. That there's a force, a set of cause and effect patterns, and you can get in touch with them and work along with them. You can live along with the Force, the light side, or you can. But so the difference is that there's no dark side of the Force. There's just foolishness.
There's either using the Force or not using the Force.
There's either using the Force. There's only the light side in Proverbs.
Okay.
There's no dark side. The dark side is just being a fool and living against the grain of the universe, in which case you'll get punished. So that's the first thing, is that it's an attribute of God. It's a principle according to which the world works and the universe is ordered. And then
it's called Hokuma.
Yeah, so the Hebrew word for wisdom is the word chokmah. You kind of have to clear your throat a little bit in that second syllable. Chokmah. Yeah. So wisdom is a standard English translation. It has another nuance to it that we don't have in the English word wisdom, which we'll talk about in a second. But that's the basic idea of Hokuma. Yeah. It's the principle.
Rather than calling it the Force, because I keep thinking of Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. Let's just call it Hokuma. Hokuma. But it's not just like a law of gravity or something. It's like the law of gravity in that you see it at work everywhere, but you can't see it.
You don't see it itself.
Yeah, but it's also a moral law. So every time you see somebody cheat and then get caught and pay the consequences, that's Hokmah at work. Because Hokmah says always have integrity. So it's not just impersonal. It's about decisions and moral behavior too.
So it's a very different worldview than and just an atheistic worldview that, there is no moral guiding, so you just kind of do what you need to do to survive. This is saying, actually, when creation was ordered, there was this moral fabric put into it.
It's a moral universe. That's right. The famous quote of Martin Luther King Jr., the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. That's the worldview of Proverbs.
Justice and...
That justice will win.
And goodness.
Eventually.
And peace.
Yeah, and that people who recognize that will cooperate and participate in justice themselves. So, yeah.
Because within the fabric of creation it was built with the DNA of justice.
Yeah.
And so it's going to realize that.
It's going to realize and reward integrity and honesty and generosity and justice. And not just in nature impersonally, but there's the law of human nature and how humans operate, that goodness will become its own reward over time.
So, Hokmah, if you were to characterize Proverbs as this wise teacher, and you got into her head, you would see that she was very acutely aware of Hokmah. She sees it everywhere.
She sees it. It's a pattern to how the world works, not just gravity and the stars and atomic forces, but like relationships and everyday life decisions also work according to a pattern. And if you can figure that out, you can live.
And that's why she's so smart when you bring a dilemma to her, and she's so quick to be like, well, here's what's going on. Is because she sees the underlying patterns. And the underlying way things work.
She looks for patterns in the cause and effect of people's decisions.
And she believes in the patterns.
Yeah.
And they prove her out.
They're part of how God wired the universe. Yeah. And so, Hokmah isn't just...
Does she have a tattoo, a Hokmah tattoo?
In Hebrew, on her inner wrist. On her forearm. Therefore, so that's why Hokmah as skill, not just knowledge, but skill is really important, because it's not just that you know about the pattern, it's that you use it, and then you craft your life the same way a stonemason can chisel a statue out of a big boulder. So you take this raw material that is your life, and you can design it.
Right.
By chiseling your life out according to the pattern of Hokmah, according to wisdom and justice and integrity and hard work and diligence and patience and so on.
it's not just goodness and morality, it's also just street smarts, right?
Also, that's exactly right. And so that gets into the second main nuance of chokmah in Hebrew that we don't have in our English word wisdom. Wisdom is primarily a head knowledge. It's something you know, primarily an intellectual reference. In Hebrew, it's a active meaning. Because you can also say, so Solomon employs a bunch of artists like stone workers and woodworkers to work in the temple. And he hires them because they have chokmah.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't just
It's
mean...
not that they're a bunch of philosophers.
Yeah, they're not philosophers. Yeah, they're just like really skilled woodworkers. So it's applied knowledge. It's that you know the raw materials you're working with and how they work, and you know how to make them beautiful and design it well. So it's a skill.
So we've said a lot at this point, and I just want to make sure it's clear. Because in my head, for some reason, it's getting a little fuzzy. Hokmah, we translate it wisdom, and there's a moral component to it because it rewards justice and integrity and those kind of things. So built into the fabric of the universe itself is this moral component, which is a part of Hokuma. God used it as a blueprint when he designed the world. Another thing about Hokuma, though, is you were just describing is just the ability, the applied ability to take that wisdom and then do something with it.
That's right.
So it's not just head knowledge, it's this very practical skill.
That's right. Which gets applied to all kinds of things. Like, I'm not particularly financially savvy, myself. And so I probably could do a way better job at thinking long term and saving or whatever. Is that a moral issue? Is that right or wrong? Well, maybe some people would say that it is. But it's just, some people lack chokmah. Some people have chokmah when it comes to skill with what they do with their money over the long haul.
So when I'm good at finance, I have Hokuma.
Yes.
When I'm good at making chairs out of wood,
yes, totally.
I have Hokuma.
Yes.
When I'm good at brewing beer in my basement, I've got Hokuma.
Yeah. And when you're good at having integrity and honesty with how you deal with your coworkers, that too is Hokuma.
Now, what if I'm good at finances, but I do it in an unjust way?
Yeah, then you're an idiot.
Then I don't have Hokuma.
Then you don't have Hokuma.
So you can't separate the moral component from the practical skill.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. That's true. Yeah.
So a woodworker who makes these beautiful monuments, right, for Solomon, but he's just like a scam artist.
Yeah, right.
He wouldn't be considered having Hokuma?
Well, he has Hokuma in his trade.
But not in his personal life.
He's an evil with his life.
An evil, a fool?
Evil, yeah.
Is that fool?
Yeah, you transliterate it, E-V-I-L.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Evil.
He's evil.
Evil
He's
in
a fool.
Hebrew means fool.
Evil.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so the moral component's like a layer that goes underneath all of these
So you can
skills.
have Hokuma without morality as it pertains to things that aren't in the bounds of needing to be moral?
Yeah, that's a good, and typically those are in the realm of relationships.
So if it's in the realm of relationships, you need morality.
If it affects people, essentially.
But doesn't everything affect people?
I suppose it does. If I chop down a tree, is that immoral? If the tree falls on somebody's house and then I run away, that's immoral.
Right.
And if I chop down too many trees.
Or you chop down a tree that's not yours.
Yeah.
Or
you chop down too many trees so that the squirrels don't have a home anymore.
Yeah. So you can do all these things in a way that doesn't actually have Hokuma.
Yes.
But you can still make a beautiful end table with that tree.
Yeah.
And so you have Hokuma as it relates to the end table, but you didn't use Hokuma. So I don't know. Am I being too
I think
here?
it's the way that you like to drill down precision in clear categories, I think, runs into difficulty in this set of concepts.
Yeah, because this is just a word that they used, and language is messy sometimes.
Language is messy. Yeah, that's right. So the concept, we're talking about the fear of the Lord. We don't have to talk about it yet, but this is where the fear of the Lord is beginning of wisdom.
A lot of the Proverbs have nothing to do with being moral or not, right? A lot of them are just like, here's a smart way to live. Here's another smart way to live.
The moral component is dominant.
But it is dominant.
Yeah, that's why in the same chapter of Proverbs, the good guys are called the wise, the righteous, the hardworking, and the bad guys are called the evil, the wicked, the unrighteous, the lazy.
Okay.
So these categories are overlapped with each other. The moral and just the wise or stupid. And that's part of the worldview of Proverbs. That's true.
But when it comes to like certain business things that aren't, I mean, there's a lot of ethical stuff, but then there's Proverbs that are just like, here's how to handle, I don't know. I don't have any examples.
No, Proverbs 14:4. Where there's no oxen, the manger is empty, but the strength of an ox produces abundant harvests. So, life's a lot more complicated if you don't own an ox.
A lot harder.
No. Where there's no oxen, the manger is empty. You don't have to scoop up poop.
Oh,
You don't have to take out food every
Manger's
single
empty,
day.
meaning you don't have to deal with
You know,
it.
it's a nice clean manger. You don't have to deal with the mess. No ox. But if you don't have an ox, you're not going to produce an abundant harvest. So that's just a proverb about if you want to be productive, you have to be willing to put in the labor. Isn't that great?
That's really great.
To do the things you want to do, you most often have to do things that you don't want to do also, along with them.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature.
And that has nothing to do with being a good person or being a bad person.
Proverbs 14:4 is just saying anything.
It's a life skill.
Anything meaningful in life is gonna have its upsides and its downsides.
Yeah.
And that's just, there you go.
And it made it into...
Yeah.
Bible.
Actually, but I love how it puts it.
If you
don't have
really
an
great.
ox, your manger's nice and empty and clean. But the strength of the ox produces abundant harvest.
Yeah. You don't have employees, your HR department is
right.
really easygoing.
That's right. No office disputes, no silos. People aren't.
But you're
to
doing all the
each
work
other,
yourself.
But you're doing all the work by yourself.
So some of the Proverbs are kind of prescriptive, but that one that we just talked about with the ox and the manger isn't prescriptive.
No, it's kind of like a little riddle.
Yeah. It's like you get to decide, do you want the dirty manger? Or do you want a clean manger, or do you want some help in the field? You can't have both. Like which one do you want to choose?
Yeah, there's actually the one-liners that are in Proverbs 10 through the end of the book. They have a whole wonderful creative diversity of forms. So some of them are like, be like this, don't be like that. But a lot of them are like little riddles. You know?
And I think
or a lot of them just say, here's how life is. The soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit. It's just saying people who speak kindly are like this. People who speak badly are like this.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that proverb, isn't telling you how to speak. It's just kind of telling you how it is. But kind of embedded in that proverb, you get the idea that you should speak kindly.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But
it's pointing out the pattern.
But it's pointing out the pattern.
People who speak kindly and gently will, as a law by the Hokuma of the universe, be a source of life to others. That's just the nature of relationships.
So it's not prescriptive, but it definitely is kind of hinting towards the pattern that you should follow.
It's telling you what kind of world you're living in. A world where kind words are a source of life to others.
What's really interesting about the ox and manger, though, is arguably you can go either way.
Oh, I see.
Or is it saying that no, you need the ox, deal with the ox?
Yeah, the value is in the abundant harvest.
Yes.
Abundant harvests are good for you and for others.
Okay. So it isn't saying like, sometimes you might just want a simple manger. I don't know. It's interesting to me because I think about this sometimes when I'm like, how complicated do I want to make my life? And this is saying, well, you want an abundant harvest. I don't know. I just want an adequate harvest. I just don't want to starve.
Yes. This has nothing to do with the Enneagram retreat that Jessica went on, the type 5.
Yeah.
one of our highest values is the uncomplicated life.
Yes, exactly. So I read that because I'm a 5. I read that proverb. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna limit the amount of ox poop I'm gonna deal with in my life. That sounds great.
Yeah, totally.
And so I read that proverb and I think like, that's smart. But it's getting at an underlying principle.
Yeah.
And that one does argue. I don't know. Is it telling you no? Like the right thing to do is to have ox and deal with the poop. Deal with complications so you could have a big harvest. Is that what that proverb is trying to tell us?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I need to
if
get
you want
over
an
my-
abundant harvest, you have to deal
But what
with
if you
some
don't want an abundant
complications.
harvest?
Well, okay. Yeah.
No one back then was like, I don't want an abundant harvest
Well, exactly.
this year.
That's exactly right. Because we can just go to the grocery store and get, milk and sausage anytime we want. But
right.
So for them, it's if you don't put up with life's complications, you don't eat. So you want abundant harvests.
Got it.
Which means you're going to have to do some stuff you don't want to do.
And that's always the case.
To get the greatest,
So
greatest goods in life.
Yes.
Always require
Dealing
sacrifices and
with some poopy
compromises
situations.
and dealing with difficult things.
Dirty mangers. The things that are worth chasing after and having in life are gonna take a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
So all the proverbs, even if they're not directly telling you what to do, they're pretty much telling you.
They're trying to persuade you.
They're trying to persuade you. There's a persuasive element to all the proverbs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the opening paragraph of the Book of Proverbs tells you it's like a publisher's blurb on the back of the book. It's Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. And then there's a little blurb. It says it's for gaining chokmah and instruction. It's for understanding the words of insight, for receiving instruction in prudent or like shrewd behavior, for doing what is right and just as fair. This book's for giving prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise listen and add to their learning. Let the discerning get more guidance. This book's for understanding proverbs and parables and riddles of the wise. And there's actually in chapter 30, there's a whole collection of 4 to 6 line riddles. Do you want to hear one? Riddle? Right.
Yeah.
Here's a riddle from chapter 30, verses 15 and 16. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, 4 that never say enough: the grave, the barren womb, land which is never sated by water, and fire, which never says enough.
That's it.
That's the riddle.
Wow.
So the riddle is to say there are 4 things that
That's consume.
consume, but they're different. Like the grave is this inevitable thing; it consumes all humans.
Yeah. We're all heading there.
So, but the barren womb is the opposite of the grave.
Yeah.
It's the beginning place of life, but that also does not produce.
Yeah.
And then there's land that
has no water.
Not all the rainwater in the
So
world
it's like a womb that's
will
not
ever make
producing,
it productive. And then fire.
which is like the grave more.
Yeah, isn't that
Destroying
interesting?
everything.
That's the riddle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. There are 3 things that are too amazing for me. 4 that I don't understand. The way of an eagle in the sky. The way of a snake on a rock. The way of the ship on the high seas. And the way of a man with a young woman.
I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. Aren't these wonderful? You have to stop and think about them.
I mean,
So like an eagle crossing the sky. This is all about motion.
okay. Yeah.
So eagle in
okay.
the sky, it never flaps its wings.
Yeah. How's
How
it
does
doing
it
that?
get up there?
Yeah.
A snake on a rock? It's just,
Yeah. How's it slithering?
how does it get there?
Okay.
A ship on the high seas? How does that little thing move across those huge waves?
Okay.
And then how on earth does a brute, stinky man
Get a woman.
ever find favor with the elegant, beautiful woman?
Is that what he's talking about?
I think that's like, isn't it odd that that a woman would ever want to be with a man.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what, because the ego, anyway. There's an element of Proverbs that's playful too.
Yeah.
Of like using your mind to think about strange things in life.
And so that's useful for wisdom in that it's just helping you understand the world more.
Yeah.
And think about it differently.
Yeah, think about things differently, to think about, there's always more complexity than I ever realized. There's always new things to ponder.
And there's more
and
connections
learn
to things.
Yeah.
And there's
That's right.
vantage points that are going to help you understand things better, make better decisions.
Yeah.
So those are like the riddles, but then there's just straight up, don't do this. That's a foolish thing to do.
Yeah, the vast majority.
Don't lie to people. That's foolish. Tell the truth. That's great. You'll do well.
But that's not how they do it. That's like the 10 Commandments. Proverbs are saying.
Well, they'll do it. Yeah, it'll be better.
Yeah, they'll
than
just say an evil person ends up like this, but the wise person, they'll be like this.
Yeah.
So again, they are painting a picture of how the world works, and then you read the proverb and you go, "Oh, I want to be like the wise man, not like the fool."
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get to work and deal with ox poop and be diligent and not be lazy and tell the truth and.
So all these riddles and proverbs and what else does he call them? Poems is in there. Like, here's a list of things. They all are taking Hokuma and putting it into these sayings, these ideas, wrapping them up, these memes, and giving them to you.
Yeah. The bulk of the Book of Proverbs, it's hundreds and hundreds of these sayings that just take every topic in life you could possibly imagine, and then running them through the grid of the law of Hokuma that runs the universe.
What was helpful for me is it's not about knowing every single proverb and making sure you're always checking off a list of proverbs as you're going through life, as much as it is respecting Hokuma. And because we think about it this way, what makes this woman so wise, right? It's, she knows all these proverbs, but what really makes her wise is she knows she's always looking for Hokuma, and she sees the Hokuma in the proverbs. And she knows why that proverb is a proverb, because she knows the underlying Hokuma, and then so she can apply it to the right situation and know when you need to use it. So it's not so much about like, hey, read all these proverbs and just like do them.
That's right.
It's about understand and interact with the Hokuma underneath of it.
Yeah, that's why there's a famous pair of proverbs right next to each other that offer the exact opposite advice.
Right.
That's really interesting. It's in chapter 26. So verse 4 of chapter 26 says, "Don't answer a fool according to his folly, or you'll become just like him."
Yeah.
So that makes sense. There's some people who actually aren't looking.
Someone's foolish enough, it's not worth getting in a conversation with them.
They're not looking to learn. They're not open-minded.
Yeah.
You're just going to get drawn into a
stupid
angry debate. So don't even bring it up. But then the very next proverb is, "Answer a fool according to his folly, or else he'll become wise in his own eyes." So it tells you to do the opposite thing. Answer the fool and tell him that he's wrong. And that he shouldn't do or say that, or else he's going to go on thinking that that's an okay thing to do or say. So what do? Are you supposed to answer a fool according to his folly, or not answer a fool according to his folly? One of my Hebrew professors, Michael Fox, who actually wrote a majestic 2-volume commentary on Proverbs in the Anchor Bible series. I spent a whole year reading the wisdom books with him in class. Wow. It was an absolute privilege. So he always liked this example. For him, he developed the metaphor that the Proverbs are like a pocket full of change. We don't really use change that much anymore.
Yeah.
Dimes and nickels and so on. But it's like a change. And you just need to pull and apply each one depending on what the situation requires.
Right. So there's this underlying Hokuma that you need to understand.
Yeah. So you got to also have Hokuma to know which proverb is relevant to what situation in life.
Right.
Because sometimes it might mean the exact opposite response.
Because it's easy to go to Proverbs and say, this is how I should do it. I'm going to do it and just treat it as a rule book of sorts.
Yeah.
I just love when we talk about Hokuma and we talk about understanding it and seeing it, it just gets me really excited versus like memorize all these Proverbs.
Yes.
And which to me is like the life hack thing. It's like, okay, like if I just do these things, my life will go better. And I don't know exactly why. And I just have to trust them and I'll check them off and I'll just apply them. Versus, no, these things are interesting because they all come from Hokuma. And this is something that the fabric of the universe was blueprinted on. It's an attribute of God and you can actually interact with it.
It requires you to become responsible and wise yourself, to know what the right course of action is in any given moment.
Right. We've talked about Hokuma, we've talked about Lady Wisdom, we've talked about how it's this force and you need to interact with it to design a life that's good for yourself and for others, like a craftsman. I, at that point, just go, that sounds great. Like, let's go. Let's do this. I want a good life. I'm excited about this force. I'm excited about Hokuma. I want to start looking for it. Like, I'm going to start designing my life. I'm going to start writing books about how to like live the good life with Hokuma and like, I'm going to just jump in head first. But I need to be careful because I could actually get in trouble with this eagerness for wisdom.
Yeah, the Book of Proverbs is also aware of the fact that humans can become what they would call wise in their own eyes.
Yeah.
That we can somehow end up thinking we're using chokmah and think we're making the right decision, but actually we've deceived ourselves and we've become the fool. And this is where the moral component especially comes in. And this is where the concept of the fear of the Lord comes in. There's an opening line in Proverbs that says, actually, the beginning of chokmah is to fear the Lord. It's a very interesting line. So the way chokmah is described in Proverbs isn't simply life hacking. It involves, it's being aware that when you're doing chokmah, you are honoring and humbling yourself before not a force, but a person, God, who has a vision of good and evil that might be inconvenient for me sometimes. But chokmah is to recognize I don't get to determine good and evil for myself. I need to fall in line with how the universe works, which is according to God's definition of good and evil.
So the danger is when you're seeking after Hokuma aggressively, just idealistically, like, I'm going to get it, is that it's human nature, it's a human condition to, if something is convenient for me, I'm going to figure out a way for it to feel like wisdom or to be perceived as wisdom. And I will fool myself quite easily. And not even realize I'm doing it. I could be chasing hard after wisdom. It could even start to like work out for me. And I'm like, look I'm being wise. And then all of a sudden the curtain pulls away and I realize that's not wisdom.
It's not wisdom.
And I'm getting smacked around.
And so what's happened there is that you've violated the fear of the Lord, or as it says in chapter 3, to fear the Lord is to shun evil. So something wise is to be a productive human and accumulate resources so that you can take care of yourself and other people. So let's say you're a business owner and it's wise to make good business decisions to increase profit so you can pay a good salary, whatever, to your employees. And then you realize like, there's this tax loophole. And, if I just kind of work this angle, we can totally cut corners on all of this.
Or if I lie about this.
Or if I lie and kind of bend these numbers, nobody will ever know.
Or I could accumulate more and it's going to hurt these people indirectly, or directly. But but I'm supposed to be productive, so I'm
Yeah.
going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can end up
It's when
fulfilling one thing that you think is a good, but you end up compromising and doing evil in some other area to accomplish the good. And in Proverbs, that's foolishness because you're lacking integrity, you're acting without honesty, and so you've actually played the fool in your effort to become wise.
So if someone came and said, I am wise, look at how well I'm doing in life, or look at these decisions, but I'm doing those things while compromising a lot of morals, then Proverbs would say, no, actually, you're not being wise. You're a fool.
You're a fool.
And it's because you did not begin with fear of the
fear
Lord.
of the Lord. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a classic example in the American work culture is just the culture of overwork. So you have high achieving people whose personal lives are a disaster. They've built a great company, or they've really put the department into good order, but like they don't spend any time with their kids, and they don't, So they're acting foolishly because they haven't achieved balance between work and life and relationships. So you seem wise at work, and then you go home and you realize that person's a fool.
And it's so easy to do that. It's so easy for anyone to just completely miss. Like, it's like we have this incredible ability to, when I say we, I mean me, everyone, to justify things.
Yeah. It comes like when we elevate some goal as the ultimate good, and therefore other things can get compromised to accomplish that thing. It's kind of the biblical vision of idolatry.
Yeah.
Once you make something an ultimate thing, then you'll be willing to dehumanize yourself and others in the effort to accomplish that.
And you'll convince yourself it's not.
You'll convince yourself that it's good.
Yeah.
And wise.
Yeah.
And noble.
And this is connected then to this whole idea of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yes. Yeah. The fear of the Lord is to shun evil. According
but
to
to shun, but not just that, but to kind of relinquish your definition of good.
Your
and
definition.
evil.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So if we go back to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, is this idea of God defines what's good and evil, or do we define what's good and evil? And when we define good and evil, we will make evil things good. It just will happen. We aren't capable of holding that line and knowing how to do that.
Yeah.
We'll deceive ourselves. We'll make other idols more important, and we'll cut corners.
Yeah.
Sometimes purposefully.
Yes.
And oftentimes unconsciously.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the depiction of like Pharaoh, in the Exodus story, where it has become good to kill babies.
Right.
Of a immigrant people group.
To protect his people.
To protect his people. And so it's the human inclination to maximize pleasure and minimize pain for me and mine. And if that's at the expense of you and yours, but at least I've increased good for me and mine. And
it's not just one political part of the political spectrum, that's doing this. And it's not just one, type of personality that's doing this. It's like we all do this in different ways.
That's right, yeah.
And so in order to truly be wise and not screw it up, I have to respect and fear that at the end of the day, God's perspective is what I am looking for and want to uphold. And that's fear of the Lord.
Yeah. One of the most well-known lines from the earlier chapters of Proverbs are from the father to the son, saying, trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. Don't be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. So the whole thing is you're going to have a way that seems right to you. There'll be decisions that make sense to you, but you should just always be suspicious of your motives.
Yeah. And always check yourself against what God has told us is right and wrong. Now, God hasn't given us instructions about everything. This is a lot of ambiguity in life.
Yeah. So this is another Hokuma thing. If you have internalized what the fear of the Lord is in the very clear scenarios, that begins to give you a true north. In others, and that suspicion, there's a great proverb, 16:2, all a person's ways seem pure to themselves, but motives are weighed by the Lord. Such a good one. So it's just by nature, we're like, yes, surely I'm making the right decision and for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So there's a skill to be developed in discerning, being suspicious of myself and turning to the wisdom of others to know what the right way forward is. So the fear of the Lord is what I call the moral logic of Hokuma. It's recognizing there might be all kinds of skilled choices that I could make, but if they are violating my moral compass, then they become stupid and foolish. Recently changed real estate. They're in real estate, so they changed companies because like dishonesty in how they like posted listings of houses and the information given about houses. Like the basic practice was always to just misrepresent the reality of the property. And she just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And so she switched companies to at least a company where that was
and that's
tolerated.
That's fear of the Lord.
Yeah, that's the fear of the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a wise decision. Even though the company she left was extremely profitable, but her conscience couldn't hang with it. So the Book of Proverbs would say that's the why, even if it involved a pay cut, that was still the wise decision.
The Book of Proverbs would go as far to say, and you will prosper for that. The
Book of Proverbs will go on to say, allow me to quote, my son, Proverbs 3, don't forget my teaching, keep my wisdom in your heart. They will prolong your life many years, bring you peace and prosperity. Later on, don't be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil, like my friend did. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. Yeah, who needs vitamin D? Just like fear the Lord and shun evil.
You're going to have a lot of resources. You're going to have a very healthy body.
Yeah.
You're going to live a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should take, and it's really saying.
That's core to the Book of Proverbs, is that wise choices over the long haul will produce a good life. You'll acquire financial resources.
Yes.
And healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Yeah. Healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Really, I mean, it's just, just read anywhere in the Book of Proverbs.
If you go with the grain of the universe, you're going to end up in a good spot. Mm-hmm. We talked about this because obviously, we could step out of this for a second and say, well, not always, like Job or Ecclesiastes, right?
Sure.
But let's stay in it for a second.
Yeah. The person who works really hard and earns a reputation for honesty and integrity will more likely produce resources by those decades of hard work.
Yeah.
Than the person who skims and cheats their way into wealth.
Yeah.
I'm not an old man, but my hunch is that that's how things tend to work. Mm-hmm. Or at least they ought to work.
There is definitely a feeling that it ought to work that way.
Yes.
Like we celebrate when things turn out that way.
That's right. But Proverbs doesn't just say it ought to work that way.
It says it will.
It says this is how things will work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's why for us the character is kind of a young idealistic person because when you're young you realize this is how it should work.
Yes.
I'm going to go fix things because I know in the fabric of the universe like this is how it's supposed to happen.
And you can pay attention and point to people and stories and relatives or whoever that's how it worked for them.
Yeah.
They worked hard. They produced wealth. They were able to.
Now, another way to think about this is just odds, right? Like, more likely than not,
yes, sure,
this will work out for you. So if you do these things over the long haul over and over, it'll work out for you. You're playing the odds. You're playing the statistics. You're in for the long game. In the short run, who knows what'll happen. But in the long run, you do it enough, this is going to be success.
And this is, part of my shorthand way of talking about this is just to say, this is, after all, the Book of Proverbs, not the Book of Promises.
But it says it's a promise.
But they are framed as very strong claims. They are.
Health to your bones.
Yes. But by nature, a proverb is accumulated wisdom about how life tends to go.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to water down the powerful persuasiveness of this.
Yeah, I think we need to end with this real excitement for the persuasiveness of it.
Yeah, it's like you just discovered a secret key.
Yeah.
Or something.
Right.
Whoa, Hokuma.
Yeah, because it is true. Hokuma exists, and it will make your life rad when you design your life with it. And then we could stop there and we could celebrate.
Yep.
And actually benefit a lot. But that's not where the story ends when it comes to our journey with wisdom.
That's right. Yeah, the wisdom literature doesn't only say that. Two other voices speak up. Ecclesiastes speaks up and he'll say, "Excuse me, Proverbs." It does sometimes work like that, but can I point out exhibit A, B, C, D, E, F, G, where it's just the opposite
right
down. And then Job says, yeah, actually, that was me. That happened to me. It didn't work out for me. And here's what I've learned from that. So it's by hearing all three of these voices that we truly become wise. So it's the surprising message of the wisdom books of the Bible. There's nothing else like them. They're remarkable.
I'll remind you of the day you were just a boy trying to pretend.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bible Project podcast. I'm John Collins, and that was a conversation with Tim Mackey on the Book of Proverbs. We're co-founders of the Bible Project. We create a lot of free videos and put them up on YouTube for people to watch so that you can learn the big picture of Scripture and see how it's a unified story that leads to Jesus and has profound wisdom for this modern world. You can watch all the videos for free. They're on YouTube, youtube.com/thebibleproject. You can also download the videos off of our website for free and use them in your church, at home, in school. They're used all over the world for a lot of things. We're so glad that you're a part of this, listening to these podcasts. If you enjoy them, you can share them with others, put a review on iTunes, follow us on Twitter @JoinBibleProj, and say hi to us on Facebook, facebook.com/thebibleproject. Next time, we will jump into the book of Ecclesiastes. It's gonna be heavy. Thanks for being a part of this with us.